reformulated NEEMO as of, what 2009?
2010.
Where it's now much more of an analog to answer questions for exploration architecture, rather than a series of different experiments that might not have been totally related. Now we're running these whole missions where we're running out ahead, 15 years to some destination like an asteroid or the lunar surface, and constructing timelines and mission plans that are very high fidelity, the way we'd actually do the real mission. And then we've developed all these metrics to look at crew performance and productivity, evaluate different hardware methods that we developed, and we're using all of this to understand what it's like to actually operate at an asteroid, and then taking all that we learned from that and applying that to developing the right hardware that we need cost effectively. The conventional approach is to write a bunch of requirements and then build some hardware, and then very late in the game the crew and mission operations gets involved and tries to figure out how to operate the stuff, and usually it doesn't work very well, and we end up doing what we call operator compensation for it because it's too late to change anything. So we're trying to turn that whole thing around, run out 15 years in the future using these deep worker subs as an analog to the space exploration vehicle that me and my team are designing, and operate with crew members on it the same way we would on an asteroid, implement the time delays that we have, the 50-second each way time delay, and evaluate different combinations of crew size and what I call work systems, where, for example, in one case we had the crew members on a foot restraint on the front of the vehicle. In another case we had 2 crew members, one on a jetpack and one on the foot restraint, so we could work those together as a system. And then the third case we looked at is we had both crew members on jetpacks, and they could either get in the foot restraint or on their jetpack as needed. And we record the time it takes to accomplish tasks. We have these acceptability ratings. We have this mission enhancement capability rating. We record all these metrics to understand what the best combination of these crew, their distribution in terms of the positions that they're in, and then the hardware that they're using.
I was in the water on Sunday and saw the foot packs on the subs being used.
Yeah.
I got some great photos of that from the store. Yeah, super.
Yeah, that's really a sweet way to work, actually.
Yeah.
Because we started out with the EVA only without the subs, and there you have to deploy translation lines, and then we've invented this lightweight boom that a fair amount of overhead. You have to anchor one end and then move the other end. And when you bring the subs in, you just fly from point A to point B. You've got this perfectly good foot restraint that you can work off of. And, you can do all that by analysis, but when you actually execute it in the real world, you learn things that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
Right. I've seen in researching the story that for procedures and things like the time delay and how many crew and all the things you've just mentioned, this must be really good. I like your, I'm calling it high fidelity. But actually, how different is the water versus space?
So that's a good question. And there are pros and cons of the water. In the water we get the weightless environment, so you can't do that on the ground. There's increased drag and viscosity. So the dynamics are not correct, but the kinematics and the three-dimensional choreography of how you tether tools, how you use tools, how you get from point A to point B, all of those things are very high fidelity. And it's very similar to the way we train in the neutral buoyancy lab for spacewalks, because we can put that whole three-dimensional choreography between 2 crew members together doing these tasks. And when you get out in space, it feels like you've been there before. The difference is the dynamics. And as long as you're moving slow, then the drag is minimized. So in the speed regime that we're working for this test, we're not orders of magnitude off on the dynamics. I mean, I think it's similar. We actually lightly weight the sub so that when people are working off the foot restraints, they actually impart their body forces into the sub, and it moves the sub around a little bit. And on the asteroid, we're going to have this 6-ton space exploration vehicle, and we have this thing called the Stinger. And I think you noticed the magnetic docking stinger we have coming off these subs. So with that Stinger, we're going to push up against the asteroid, and then we have a control system where there'll be a strain gauge on that Stinger, and it'll be servoed to the thruster, so it'll maintain a constant 10-pound force against the asteroid, so we don't have to plume our gas against the asteroid and stir up all the dirt. So between the inertial mass of 6 tons plus this 10-pound reaction force, would probably be very stable, and my sense, and we'll analyze all this for sure, is that we'll be about as stable as we were underwater.